Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1170 of our daily content grind, and today we're going back to something that I did a while back. I got 2 characters in and then promptly forgot this format, which you would think for the Plastic Addict guy, this would be a go-to, and we really should have done a lot more by now. We're going to take a popular Transformer character and go through the history of bad toys that they have had. Maybe not Plastic Addict bad down the board, but at the very least, let's acknowledge where the bottom of the barrel is so we can appreciate all the cream that rises to the top, right? So this time it's going to be Starscream. I'm going to be honest with you, Starscream doesn't have a whole lot of bad toys. For one of the most frequent characters in all of Transformers, most of his toys turn out to be pretty okay at the minimum. You know, even designs I don't like, I have to admit, the toys are actually good. So when it comes to this guy, I gotta stretch a little bit here and there for the sake of just showing you how low it gets, where we've actually acknowledged that some of the low still isn't all that bad, okay? So if we're going to start at the bottom of the barrel, so keep in mind, this format, this is not a top 10 or bottom 10. This is in no particular order whatsoever. And this is literally, I've just gone random, whatever made sense in my head when I numbered them for this video. We don't have to stick to 10. In fact, we are not going to. But we are going to start at the very bottom of the barrel. Build the Rule is a gift that keeps on giving for me. So, if you're new to this channel, we reviewed this one way back when as part of Plastic Addict when it was repainted into Armada Thundercracker. This was Hasbro's attempt in the early 2000s to break into the LEGO market by adapting Armada characters into brick-built toys. In order to keep some Transformer element to them, they came up with this block of limbs that folded out from it in order to create some element of transformation. You still had to disassemble and reassemble everything. The problem was the blocks were so big, like they're a lot of cheap parts that are just big solid chunks and not actual like buildable pieces. So you didn't get a whole lot of the Lego fun out of it, and it wasn't really all that compatible with other brick brands, which led to a pretty lame take on the whole Lego concept, and it really was unsatisfying as a Transformer piece as well. I mean, cool. It's a Lego kind of thing that can turn into something, but they all looked terrible. The truth of the matter is Starscream here is probably one of the better looking ones. It's Megatron and Optimus where things get really, really rough. But Starscream wasn't all that bad. No. I mean, we definitely saw worse in Build to Rule. Creo, on the other hand, you could make an argument. You could absolutely make an argument for him being the ugliest out of that whole line. So Creo was the later attempt. And granted, they are better. It's a lot more brick-built parts. It feels a lot more like Lego. And, you know, obviously, like, they tried a lot harder in that set. That said, look at him. Just look at him. Everything about him is supposed to be G1 Starscream, except for the fact that his head is ridiculously tiny and he has the movie Dorito body. I'm not sure what they were going for here. He looks like a mess. It's unpleasant. It is highly unpleasant. If you like your Lego building, okay, fine. He definitely works better for that. I have no idea what they were thinking with his proportions, though. Those are all over the map. He's funny, though. He's funny. He's funny. He's swole Starscream with a tiny little head. It's like some kind of weird Cybertronian allergic reaction or something. Now, I will admit, the Lego built stuff is bottom of the barrel, and I'm kind of starting bottom of the barrel. So part of the criteria for this was I didn't want anything that was too gimmicky, like something that was specifically designed to be a gimmick toy. And I didn't want anything like authentics that are designed to be as cheap as possible. I wanted something that genuinely felt like Hasbro trying to put out a quality toy that was just not there. And I kind of lump Build-A-Rule and Creo into that, because they were genuinely trying to compete with LEGO. The Cyberverse Warrior class is where I'm getting a little bit close to the line. You could argue these are designed to be gimmick toys first that just happened to transform, but they also tended to be like the main line, the main Transformers for the cartoon lines for the last few years. Since, and actually for a long time, longer than that, really. We're talking Cyberverse, Transformers 1, and Earthspark. Yeah, we've dealt with this for a long time. In fact, we're still dealing with this mold. For some reason, this mold came back for Earthspark to be a Starscream. And it's just an awfully delivered mold. I mean, the first incarnation of it isn't even colored correctly because the vehicle mode is mostly red and blue. Like, gray is almost a tertiary color when it's supposed to be the color of the jet itself. They worked in this weird wing flip gimmick that I don't think ever worked. It just didn't. And then there's the typical stuff you'd get with a cheaper figure. Very low on paint apps, low articulation level. Like outside of the hips, his legs have no articulation points whatsoever. Now, I wouldn't normally put him on a list like this because, well, what do you expect? The Warriors were designed to be cheap. But there were good Warrior figures made. There are actually fun ones. They did a Warrior class Gnaw, and he was great. They did a Warrior class Dead End, and I thought he was actually a pretty clever toy for the size. There were good figures. There are good figures mixed in, and then there's just this. One of the biggest characters in Transformers, and he gets one of the worst toys, which is normally a crux I put on Bumblebee. Normally that's his stigma to wear. But no. Starscream just had to be the brunt. And I don't know why they brought the mold back for Earthspark. It looks nothing like Starscream in that cartoon. Oh, well. I don't know. It's just a frustrating toy. Now, if you want to go to the complete opposite end of the financial spectrum, I've never liked the original Masterpiece Starscream. I know there's people who really like this toy. I know there's people who really like the color scheme. I do not like the color scheme. I would like my Masterpiece toy to actually look like the character he's supposed to be. You could tell me that this is a brand new Seeker. Tell me this is a Seeker named Blueberry. I believe you, because he doesn't look like Starscream. Now, the toy itself really hurt by the fact that the designer for the toy really wanted the vehicle mode to take priority and be as realistic as possible. So you ended up with a robot mode with a lot of extra kibble, a lot of really awkward elements, like the fact that he barely has feet and can barely stand on those feet. This toy essentially requires his display stand. And then there is the color. I don't like the color, but that also comes down to the plastic quality itself. This toy felt so much more fragile than most Transformers back in the day. I can remember so many breaks and stress mark reports on this toy, all because the plastic used was designed to create that more realistic color and texture. Because the guy who designed it came from like a model background. Like, he wanted to make it realistic, and it's a mess as a result. I was very happy when they retooled it to be just a lot cleaner, And the irony is, I don't like this toy. I really don't even like the colors, but it's one of those few Starscream color schemes that has never been redone or duplicated. I would actually buy it in an instant if they did this from like the classics or the Earthrise mold, simply because I think it's funny. Let's get into one of my worst fears. Now, believe it or not, it's not just the clear plastic. So this is the Unite Starscream, the one they did for their Grand Galvatron set over there. And yeah, it's very odd. It's an aerial bot with a Starscream head. Like, it's not even like hiding that fact. It just doesn't look right. It looks like the character's crammed into a mold that he doesn't belong on because Jet. I mean, it's an excuse to do the Ghost Starscream again. So, you know what makes my fear of translucent plastic even worse? Aside from the fact that, yes, this thing is using ball joints for its clear plastic. Not great. Not great. Aside from that, It's the fact that this is a combiner piece, which means not only are you asking that clear plastic to deal with the stresses and tolerances of a normal figure, you are also expecting it to hold a lot of extra weight. I would never make this a leg, and I wouldn't trust it to hold a weapon while it was an arm. Yeah, it's just a very sloppy Starscream. It barely looks like the character, really. Like, it's like the colors are doing a lot of lifting to make this thing look like Starscream. The fact the combiner block is trying to look like his cockpit, I think, is hysterical. But at least it can't get worse, right? At least it can't get worse. So yeah, Fun Pub decided to do this just because, you know, Takara made a Starscream head, so we're gonna use it because we're gonna milk shattered glass like an aging cow that is just about to give up its last drop. I don't like this one either. So we're taking the Jetfire color scheme, cramming it into Starscream, and then cramming that whole thing into an aerial bot and hoping it works. It does not work. It does not work. It might be a little bit better than the Ghost one because it's not clear plastic and because the combiner block actually looks like it fits into the color scheme, but it's still just messy. You know, it still just doesn't feel right. Shattered Glass Starscream isn't supposed to even look like G1 Starscream in the least. He's supposed to look like Cybertron Starscream, you know. That's kind of the idea. Don't give him an Earth mode because they don't have Earth modes yet in the original Shattered Glass. But this one, no. No. Shattered Glass Starscream's had way better designs, way better toy choices. Like I'd even take the Tetrajet. I didn't like the Tetrajet take on it either, but I would still take that. But speaking of, now, hear me out. I know this isn't bad for a titanium figure. And that's the key. That's the key to that phrase, right? For a titanium figure, this toy isn't bad. But the toy itself, let's be honest here, like I could count on, like, I don't know, less than one hand. Like there's maybe like there's like 3 titanium figures that I actually like, that I think are actually good toys objectively, excluding like the whole like mess that is titanium. But no, not this one. Very limited shoulder articulation. The diecast does make it kind of awkward. Every time I've got this mold multiple times, because I was a sucker at the time, and none of the joints felt good on any of them. Like, I can admit the toy itself, it's like a decent design, but like it just never felt like it was like doing what it needed to do. And then I don't know why the head is gray. There's a whole video I can make about like all the gray-headed Starscreams that have been released over the years. For whatever reason, every now and then someone thinks that his head should not be his traditional black. I don't know why. I don't know why. But it's again, it's weird. It's weird. It looks like Starscream hit middle age or something. Yeah, like overall, like, and admittedly, again, I'm telling you, Starscream doesn't have many bad toys, but if I'm going to make a whole video about the ones that are worse, I have to include some that are still kind of good. Like, this toy is kind of good. Could have been much better. Now, if we really wanted to pick on a Starscream that I don't think is good at all, but still includes all of this lovely diecast content, we need to go to the Alternity. So I only owned 2 Alternity molds, and that is saying something, because there's only 4. So I still basically have understanding of more than half of that line thanks to repaints. I had the Skywarp version of this figure, and I transformed it a couple times and just felt uncomfortable. Between the heavy amounts of paint that went into this to make it all work, and, you know, I was trying very hard not to scratch, and just how awkward the toy felt once it was transformed, I just never could get into this figure. Now, I like the novelty of actually turning Starscream into a car, you know, especially in a line that specializes exclusively in car transformers. I thought this would have been hysterical for alternators. If you wanted to come up with a Starscream who had like the entire door and quarter panel of a car popping off to become like the wing section of a Starscream, would have been great. I think that would have been funny, you know? Instead of making Starscream like a scale jet, which would have been like Titan sized, back then. No, like this, like just force him into a car. There's a novelty to that, which is why I bought the Skywarp, and then I couldn't wait to get rid of the Skywarp because it just didn't feel like a good toy. There's just something like ick about this mold. Like, I've messed with like the Convoy, and the Convoy is fine. The Convoy is pretty good, pretty complex for its size. This just felt like it was trying to cram something in and it didn't have the space or budget to do it. And I think this would have turned out better if they did try it for alternators and vinyl tech. With a little bit more size, yeah, I think this could have been a fun idea. But at what was essentially like kind of largish deluxe at the time, I think these were, it didn't feel great, especially at the price they cost. Now, at this point, you might be surprised that we have not even touched on movie Starscream. As I mentioned many times in the past, I don't like the Bayverse designs. I really don't. I mean, I liked them at first because they were different, but the more I looked at them, just the more they all felt to me. So you're probably surprised that I didn't actually put any on this list so far. And that's kind of surprising to me too, because frankly, I hate that Starscream design. But I will admit, usually when they do it, it's well done. I even think like the Dark of the Moon and Studio series are pretty decently done toys that are kind of fun to mess with. But I do have to put the Protoform on here. And I had to put the Protoform on here not only because it's a gold plastic nightmare, because all of the plastic is gold, but also because I just don't feel right about this toy. I don't like the Optimus turns into something that is like conveying a meteor, like an entry ship. And this is kind of like an entry ship design as well, but the design of it just does not strike me as like a proper drop ship. It's not, it's got winglets, but it's not aerodynamic enough. Like it kind of looks like an air conditioner is falling out of the sky. It's a novel idea to come up with like what they looked like as protoforms when they were falling into Earth's atmosphere. But I wish it was done a little bit cleaner than this. Optimus was done clean. This one, not quite as much. What amuses me is that this is the only movie Starscream all the way up until the Bumblebee line that actually tries to put some of his G1 design into him. Like the intakes on the chest, a little bit of the shoulder pylons, but that's about it. And it's weird for me to be dogging on this toy, considering I own a very rare version of it. I own a pre-production that's cast in a different color that doesn't have the GPS problems of the final release. But I own that because it is an extremely unique piece, and it was part of Jarek Wyatt's collection. So I wanted it to have a home in mind where it can be safe and guarded. I don't want someone scalping it because his name is on it, and it's a rare piece in general. So I keep it. I treasure it, but I would never voluntarily play with it. Outside of doing the one video that I did on it, never mind. Something that's a little bit more divisive, but this is one of those toys where like, yeah, I'm never going to like this toy. I'm never going to like this toy. The Power of the Prime Starscream, I still think sucks. I still think it sucks. For number one, this was the foil sticker era and the really awful foil stickers that were on all of the larger toys at the time. Yeah, it felt bad. It felt terrible. They couldn't wait. They gave that one attempt and threw it out, and I'm thrilled that they did. Yeah, but the toy itself just never felt great. Like, it's not satisfying as a Starscream transformer because so much of it is just too much of it cheaty. Like, we just went over, like, cheat parts are okay. But a Starscream whose nose cone doesn't actually become his chest, I think, is a little bit much sometimes. This is a Voyager class toy. I would expect you to be able to pull that off in a Voyager budget. Yes, it has to become a combiner torso too. For no reason whatsoever. Why would anyone want to combine with Starscream? Why would you trust Starscream with your body? But the toy itself just, I don't know, like it feels kind of hollow. The proportions never worked for me because it's very swole Starscream. Like Starscream's at his best when he's sleek, like Starscream as a powerhouse doesn't fit, like it's weird, it's just not satisfying as a Starscream toy. It just isn't. Another one that fell off to me, The Beast Hunter toy. So this Starscream already suffered from the fact that it already had two pretty good figures. Like, following the first edition Starscream in Prime was nearly impossible because that toy is nearly flawless. This one is just odd. So Beast Hunters had two ideas for like brand new takes on characters. It was either like animalistic, which I think those are the most memorable and the coolest ones, you know? Like Knockout gaining the crocodile parts, I think is a really cool novelty that elevates what is otherwise a pretty bad toy. You know, Mermaid RC is a fun little take, you know, things like that made those toys a little bit more memorable. And then you had ones that are just like, here's some, like, we just added blades and spikes to them. You know, like Bumblebee's going full edgelord with how many spikes that he's gained. I don't know what Ratchet's doing with like all of his like rocks and things that are caked onto him. And then this Starscream, I don't like the colors. Like, there was no real like, there wasn't a deluxe Starscream at the time. The previous one was a Voyager class. There was no reason to radically change his color scheme like this. I don't like this, like, very pale brown and lilac. I don't think it works. I don't like that, like, 40% of this toy's bulk is in a gigantic claw weapon. And yeah, it's just unsatisfying. Like, I mean, it does suffer because there's been much better Starscreams in that line before him, but like, it just doesn't feel like there's a reason for him to exist. It's just awkward. It's just like very awkward that like, it just feels like a very unfulfilled concept. You know, if you had gone the full, like the animalistic route and mixed him with like an eagle or something, he would have looked really freaking cool. Nope. Just blades. Just add a bunch of blades to him, call it a day. We're going to end off on one that is a little bit historic, but that doesn't mean it's not bad. You know, no, if we're going to end off this list on anything, we're going to end it off on the first attempt to remake Starscream from the ground up. The Robot Masters toy features a lot of oddities to him. Very scrawny arms, very odd proportions in the chest, very stunted articulation. It's because this was the first attempt to modernize the G1 Starscream design, and rather than redesign it from the ground up like the Classics toy did, instead they tried to take the original transformation scheme of the G1 Starscream toy and redo it as a articulated figure, hence the super scrawny arms, and hence the weird proportions on him. It's more of an experimental toy, and I don't think it's an experiment that really paid off. I have this mold as Thundercracker and Skywarp. I am tempted to put them in Plastic Addict if I ever manage to find the time to write episodes of that again. They are not great. They are not great at all. They do hold a significant point because they're some of the first remakes of G1 toys we had ever had. You know, Robot Masters was actually really good for that. But of all the ones that I had messed with, like, the Beast ones were pretty decent. Convoy, Optimus is kind of messy, but there's elements to it I think are still better than when, like, Classics did a deluxe Optimus. That Starscream, though. Starscream just did not come out great. I hate to say it, it just did not. Did not. That said, still a little bit of fun you can have of it. And that's true of a lot of the Starscreams on this list. Like I said, he tends to get good toys. Like, he's worth covering in this series. You know, if I'm going to make a series of like, oh, the worst of every major character, you know, but I do that so we can appreciate the good ones. But even these still had some quality elements to some of them. So there you go. I'm sure someone is going to be in the comment section very upset that their favorite Starscream toy is in this list. Trust me, it's all opinion. It's all in the, you know, I'm just trying to entertain for a day or so. Yeah, don't take it too seriously. Like I said, a lot of Starscreams, even some of them in this list, are still really, really good. But, you know, by default, some have to be at the bottom of the list, and these just happen to be the ones for me. So, take that for what you will. But that's going to be it for me today. As always, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Analysis complete. Adapting translators to local language. Are you out there?